All right. This is a live from outside edition of It's Just Me. I am Brett Fox. I'm going to do a brief video just discussing the Xander Zayas Jaron Boots Ennis matchup for the WBA and WBO super welterweight belts that are on the line tonight. Of course, I'll just get into fight styles and predictions. Now, of course, Xander Zayas, to begin with, is a unified champion at 154 pounds. Now, he has the WBA and WBO belts for a reason. Xander Zayas is actually a better boxer than a lot of people give him credit for. There have been times where he has actually been very aggressive and in some cases a little sloppy here and there. But Xander Zayas is a very, very good boxer. Now, as far as his fluidity or athleticism or something of that nature, of course, Boots is going to have the advantages in that particular area. But Xander, um, and this is a key thing, I think Xander is a little bit better, despite the athletic disadvantage, of cutting the ring off than Jaron Boots Ennis is. So that is something that you want to factor in. Look for Xander Zayas' foot placement to be just a little bit better starting off. I think as probably the fight goes on, I think Boots may separate himself, but Xander Zayas' foot placement is probably going to be is going to be a lot more impressive than what people are going to give him credit for, and I think that he will be able, um, in some spurts, to kind of effectively pressure Boots, and just kind of based off of how Boots reacts, of course, we'll see how we'll kind of see how that yields results. But I think Xander Zayas' jab is also underrated as well. Um, he throws more of he throws more of a traditional disruptor type jab, and what I mean by that is he'll throw a jab to disrupt rhythm. In some cases, when he has full control, or in most cases when he actually has like full control of the fight, he throws the jab to actually just kind of set the pace or set other things up, if you will. But with somebody like Jaron Boots Ennis, I think that his jab is going to be more or less there to throw to disrupt timing and rhythm for Jaron Boots Ennis rather than just try and set the pace for something. Now, if if Xander is able to if Xander is able to use his size as an advantage, then I can probably see him utilizing his jab to actually just kind of set the tone. But with someone like Boots, I think that you actually have to disrupt his natural rhythm or his natural feel, and then you can actually utilize the jab to basically set the tone. And what I mean by that is when you're throwing a jab to disrupt something, it just basically means that the opponent may have some type of speed or athletic advantage over you. So you're throwing the jab to just basically throw them off. Like if you notice that your opponent is a lot more athletic, and then he's faster or fleeter of foot than you are, and he likes to move to his right, then what you would probably do is you would wind up shuffling to your left, throw a jab just to kind of throw off his timing to where if he tries to move out to the right, there's going to be something there waiting on him. That's what I mean by a disruptive jab. A jab that actually would set a tone is basically something that you would basically throw. You would try to see how your opponent reacts, and then just based off of that particular reaction, you kind of set things up for other attacks that you're eventually going to inflict on your opponent. So that's what I mean by a disruptive jab rather than a jab that actually sets the tone. The jab that sets the tone just basically lets you know that, hey, this is going to happen and this is going to be a long night for you, and there's nothing that you could probably do about that. A disruptive jab is, hey, I know that you have some type of advantage, but I'm going to mess you up psychologically and mentally. I'm going to make you uncomfortable, and then I'm going to make myself comfortable doing something else. Um, so I would probably look for Xander to try to disrupt Boots, Boots, excuse me, rhythm and timing. So I would probably look for that. Um, I think positioning is very important in this particular fight. So I would look for Xander Zayas to try to have his lead foot just outside of the lead foot of Boots Ennis. And what I basically mean is that both of these guys are orthodox, which means that their left is going to be out in the front, and then their right hand is actually going to be back. So he's basically going to have his left foot just outside of, or should have his left foot just outside of Jaron Boots Ennis' left foot. Now, what that basically means is that if, excuse me, if Xander kind of gets into, if he's close enough to, of course, just try to get into exchanges, the only escape route is actually going to be to Jaron Boots Ennis' right. And then what I mentioned before is that Xander is a little bit better cutting off the ring. So if you're forcing Jaron to actually move to his right all of the time, then you basically can time his movements a lot better than you would if you were unable just to maintain a certain position on him, and then he can move anywhere he wants. So I think if you're able to make him move in one direction to where it's a lot more predictable, you can kind of expose or exploit some disadvantages that he may have. Um, and what I mean by those is there's some defensive disadvantages that he has. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get into that. So with Boots Ennis' slick style, it does it is visually it's visually good, but as far as fundamentals, and I know that Boots knows this, he's not. He feels as though if he feels as though that whatever his opponent is actually doing is not going to really harm him. Sorry, y'all. Once again, real person, real situation. My water bottle just fell over. I had to get it. All right. But yeah, if it's a situation that feels, I'm sorry. If yeah, Boots feels as though he can survive an exchange, then defensively he's not as responsible. He'll allow himself to actually get hit a lot more. But now I think that with Xander, and I'm not saying that Xander actually has world breaker power, but there's definitely going to be a weight advantage for Xander once he rehydrates, and I think that because of that, Boots is probably going to have to be a bit more cautious than he normally would be. So I would look for Boots to actually be a little bit more defensively responsible, but it's a fight. You're still going to get hit with punches. So if Xander is able to establish a disruptive jab, and I think that if Xander actually attacks Boots' body early, then that gives him a better chance of actually winning the fight. Now that's a lot easier said than done, but, and again, if it's a situation where Boots is very elusive and you just basically have to hit what's available, then you have to do that too. But I think that throwing a disruptive jab to just throw off Boots' rhythm and timing, and then attacking his body early is probably going to be the most effective strategy. And then, of course, making sure that your positioning is good is going to be key as well. So I actually look for those particular factors with Xander Zayas to try to secure a victory. Now, with Boots Ennis, there are all kinds of advantages that he actually has. Speed and athleticism are the two most outstanding advantages that he would actually be able to have. I think that Boots is a lot physically stronger than what people actually give him credit for. So I think even in an inside exchange, which I think is probably going to wind up happening, I think that they're going to have to do some work to each other on the inside. And I think that if Boots is able to um, be successful on the inside, then I think that would help him that much more to secure victory. And I think that it would probably be a more or less dominant victory if he's able to be successful on the inside. Now, of course, I would have to say the reverse of the key for Xander Zayas, which is just make sure that you are able to find escape routes after the attacks. Um, I think it's imperative that you are able just to be able to get in your attacks, get out, and then keep the damage to a minimum. You are going to get hit. Boots is going to get hit in this fight with some significant shots, but I think if he is able to withstand those, of course, then I'm not going to say that it's going to be a very easy night for Boots, but I think that he'll have a convincing victory if he's able to effectively attack, get in, get out, and basically outbox Xander Zayas and use his physical advantages to his advantage. Then yeah, it may be a very convincing victory. Now, I'm not going to predict a knockout or anything else like that, but I do actually have Boots by, I would probably say, the first thing that came to mind was unanimous decision, but I would not be surprised at a split decision either. Now, that is, of course, factoring in that everything goes according to what's on paper. There have been some strange things that have actually happened in the sport of boxing, but I think that if Boots does everything according to plan, which is just basically outbox Xander Zayas and continue to use your speed and athleticism, excuse me, to your advantage, then I don't see him having an issue as far as beating Xander Zayas. So that is my thoughts and predictions on this particular fight, and I am very excited to find out what happens next. Well, y'all, this has been another edition of It's Just Me. Of course, I'm Brent Fox, and I'll holler at y'all later.